Part 8. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lau Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 71. The Crystal Tower is located in the neutral zone of the ruins. There are not only distorted arcane creatures but also players from the surface world. The map here is not yet open, so players can only rely on their own exploration, but Shen Xian has the assistance of Wendy. Easily found the route to the 3 crystal towers, he carefully walked through the corridors and stairs, and walked for 15 minutes to reach the destination. The crystal tower is half buried in the mud. 2 passages connect the outside and inside of the mage tower respectively. At the pointed arched door stand 3 arcane attendants and 1 elemental knight. The arcane attendants are exquisite and powerful alchemy puppets, and the elemental knights are a magical creature with a sealed soul. Shen Xian looked at the 2 passages, which were composed of several waves of patrol guards and vigilance guards. Without the average strength of level 50, it was unrealistic to rush through. He observed the external structure of the crystal tower. This is a tower that directly uses 100 meters, a strange building made of high-grade purple crystals. The transparent walls are carved with milky white runes. There are looming magic lines running through it. You can faintly see the flow of energy. Countless magic crystals are melted by the energy of the external building. After burning, it is transformed into the necessary power for alchemy, maintaining the barrier, and controlling the weather. 2 types of energy with different properties are exchanged and transmitted to each other. This has become the central structure of the Mage Tower. Catherine looked into the distance and said softly, "Lord, do you have a way to enter? The guard force at the door is not something we can compete with." The Crystal Tower also has a natural self-retaliation function. After being attacked, it can automatically activate level 5 to a high level 9 spell. If you force it, you will. Hearing Catherine's question, Shen Xian shook his head and replied, "Not yet." He looked at the surface of the Crystal Tower, maybe he could find a special route. After thinking for a moment, he sent a barbarian crossbowman to let him try to climb. It was surprising. Fortunately, the strong barbarian easily climbed up along the uneven surface without encountering any resistance. They found a way, and soon, the barbarians came to the top of the crystal tower. They dropped the rope. Shen Xian and Catherine grabbed the rope and came to the top of the crystal tower. The alchemical creatures climbed up on their 6 flexible legs. The alchemy creature looks like a spider, has slender legs and feet, and moves quickly. It took 10 minutes for Shen Xian and his army to reach the top of the crystal tower, where there was a narrow passage that could enter the interior. In the corridor connecting the crystal tower, with the light of torches, the figures of several players emerged from the darkness. The current one is a human swordsman named Jian Qingqing, level 31. He is wearing a streamlined silver-plated armor, and his whole body is shining. His short black hair and handsome appearance can attract the attention of girls, but the scar on his cheek seems a bit abrupt. His expression is gloomy, like the approaching dark clouds, looking from a distance. Staring at the sparks in the distance. "They left," Jian Wuking asked coldly. "How did they leave? Why can't we see them?" The dwarf warrior named Rendays Hibudong replied, "The forces in the underground city have dark vision." "Of course we can't see it," he said and guessed, "Did they climb up?" "Why can't we?" "Because dwarfs are born with short legs, of course they can't climb up." The dwarf mage named Doomguy behind laughed. "Humph, isn't it even harder for a dwarf to climb up?" the dwarf immediately retorted. The Doomslayer laughed wildly. "The mage has the feather falling technique and the flying technique, how come he can't climb up?" he replied unhappily, raising his staff high. "Let me show you." Taking out the feather that released the spell, he recited the incantation. The Doomslayer proudly walked to the crystal tower and stretched out his hand to climb. In an instant, a violent arc of lightning shot out from the inside. Level 5 Lightning Chain. A series of 1000 damage figures floated randomly, Violent lightning jumped out of the Doomslayer's body, and jumped repeatedly. In the blink of an eye, all the armies led by the three players were half healthy. Damn. Idiot. What are you doing? Wu Qingqing was obviously the boss of the three. When he saw that all the destroyers in the army were killed, he immediately started to curse uncontrollably. Do you know how much time it took to train these armies? It's not that I don't know how to write the word death. The ruthless man raised his sword fiercely. Be honest, and you'll pay for the money to pick up girls this month, he finally said, staring at the figure in the distance. More than a dozen. I don't believe in alchemical creatures and barbarians anymore. They say a good man can't stand in large numbers, but I want to see what I can gain. Entering the crystal tower, after passing through a spiral staircase more than 10 meters long, Shen Xian and his army arrived at the upper level of the crystal tower. Looking down from here, you can see a huge giant magic circle carved on the ground at the lower level of the crystal tower, about 20 meters in diameter, nested with countless small magic circles, with energy flowing back and forth, running like a machine. Looking back from here, he found that the place they entered was a special passage used by mages for maintenance. It was usually closed and there were no patrol units. Looking down at the magic circle at his feet, he asked, "What are the conditions required to destroy the giant magic circle?" "Catherine, you are a spellbinder and you should know better than me." Catherine explained, "The method of destroying the magic circle is very simple. You only need to destroy the key runes around it and the texture that communicates energy. The life of these things will not exceed 1000, and you only need simple damage magic." She changed the subject. "The problem is that the defensive barrier that protects the magic circle can absorb physical and magical damage, and can also wake up the arcane guards. This is what adults need to solve." Oh, Shen Xian thought to himself that Wendy had given him a problem. How should he solve it? There are two kinds of defense forces inside the crystal tower, the 65-level arcane servant, which is huge in size, and the 45-level arcane guard, which is of average size. The only one who can chase and kill is the arcane guard, which can just pass through the narrow stairs. Arcane guard, level 45, HP 9000, magic value 300, attack power 2500, defense power 300. Arcane servant, level 65, HP 30,000, magic value 10,000, attack power 6500, defense power 800. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 72. Shen Xian thought of a way, destroying the stairs to create an artificial advantage. As long as the stairs connecting the upper and lower levels were destroyed, the arcane guards who could not fly would certainly not be able to get through. He could be condescending and shoot slowly with the barbarian crossbow. He ordered 20 alchemical creatures to ambush near the stairs, because when the stairs were destroyed, the arcane guards would definitely notice it, so he had to complete the task before the guards attacked in a large scale, so that he could destroy them with peace of mind. Catherine suddenly realized that the adult had thought of this method. "I wonder what I can do." Hold them was Catherine's task. The magic traps set by the spellbinder were very effective. They were the perfect choice to fight against the arcane guards who mainly attacked magic. After hearing this, Catherine came to the middle of the stairs and spent half of her magic power to set up 3 traps. As long as one of them was triggered, it could hold off the arcane guards for 5 to 10 seconds. The barbarian crossbowmen and alchemy creatures began to attack. The 20,000 life ladder took 3 minutes to save due to damage, making it extremely difficult to destroy. After 1 minute, the arcane guards sounded an alarm and rushed over, numbering 3 people. The level 45 arcane guard is an ordinary level unit. Its attack is not very strong and the damage it hits Shen Xian is not much. After turning on the level 3 barrier aura, the damage is about 800. In addition, the arcane guard's hit rate is low, almost twice. They were all dodged by Shen Xian, and the arcane guards behind triggered the trap. They lost the ability to release the spells stored in their bodies and could only attack repeatedly. In the Crystal Tower, the alarms continued one after another. The guards were running back and forth aimlessly. Only a few of them could find Shen Xian. After 2 minutes, the pillar in the middle of the stairs was crumbling and began to shake non-stop. He suddenly thought of a good idea. Let the barbarian crossbowmen take turns withstanding the attack of the arcane guards, pass through the defense of the arcane guards, and rush to the lower level of the Crystal Tower. Alarm! Alert! Intruder No. 047 has been found. Request to eliminate it, the guards squeaked, and the 6 or 7 arcane guards jointly launched an attack on Shen Xian. He ran quickly, and the guards spewed acceleration from behind. The two sides chased each other and returned to the middle of the stairs, where a dozen arcane guards stood closely. The panting Shen Xian said, "Attack quickly." The barbarian crossbowman hurriedly used high-damage skills, precision shooting, destructive shooting. The ladder with 5,000 lives left suddenly shook violently. The pillar at the bottom of the ladder broke and collapsed. 5-meter-long stairs fell, along with 6 or 7 arcane guards falling to the ground, all of which crashed onto the giant magic circle. Tip: the arcane guard takes 4,350 falling damage. Tip: the arcane guard takes 5,210 falling damage. Tip: the defensive barrier suffered 1,560 magic damage. Tip: the defensive barrier suffered 1,230 magic damage. The remaining 2 arcane guards were all turned into a pile of parts under the barbarian's bursts of fire. The red-blooded arcane guards on the ground were unresponsive and swayed back and forth, seemingly unable to find the intruder. Something went wrong with No. 047, and the barbarian was exposed. He looked in awe and shouted excitedly, "Kill them!" He took out the arrows from his back and shot. In just 10 seconds, 3 more arcane guards were scrapped. Shen Xian, who had gained a lot of experience, was promoted to level 26, and Catherine was also promoted to level 47. The rest are nothing to be afraid of. The life of the defensive barrier is 500,000. Fortunately, it will not restore health. Shen Xian leisurely glanced at the hesitant guards on the ground, feeling very comfortable in his heart. It took 60 minutes to reach 500,000 lives. When he reached the top of the Crystal Tower, Shen Xian looked down at the magnificent scene of the Gate of Elements, and saw a few discordant fire lights in his field of vision. "What is it, player?" He laughed. It was too early to kill him. The base man waited patiently. "Damn it, why haven't you come out yet? Could it be that you're dead?" "Impossible. The guards in the magic fortress are still fighting, which means the threat inside has not been eliminated." Boss the Doomslayer asked weakly. "What's the matter?" Jian Wuking asked impatiently. "Should we go to the red light district of Nanchi tomorrow or?" Interrupted again. He said, "You stallion, don't be so vulgar. You see, the boss has picked up a girl recently. She is from Kunlun University." When the dwarf warrior said this, he seemed to want to tell the story. The protagonist is replaced by himself, so that he can also feel happy. The ruthless expression softened. "I said, Doomsday Slayer, our style should be higher. You see, the bitch from Kunlun University still doesn't love me. I have to live and die. I have a sense of conquest. I always go to the red light district and be careful to get poisonous plum." Lu Hua, Zdia the human swordsman threatened. In the second half of the 21st century, although many diseases have received specific drugs, countless new diseases have emerged. The dwarf mage, who was frightened by the ruthlessness, turned pale, saw the Crystal Tower in the distance, and shouted, "Something happened. Look, the lights of the magic fortress disappeared." Yeah, the 3 of them were extremely surprised. Could it be that he also controls the magic fortress? Otherwise, how can we explain it? The 3 of them thought a lot and quickly reached an agreement. They must have gotten something good, otherwise how could it be like this? Is it a divine weapon? Maybe Destroyer Nyanyo repeated. The three of them were all idiots who thought they could conquer the world after obtaining the artifact. When they thought of the benefits of conquering the world, I have the country and the beautiful women, their eyes lit up and their fighting spirit was high. Keep him no matter what, Destroyer vowed. Don't worry, we have brought 50 level 10 swordsmen and 10 level 20 combat priests. Jian Qingqing looked extremely confident. It's no problem. I brought 2 level 50 elite units and the dwarfs 30 heavy armored dwarves. It's enough to keep him. The man with short ambitions suddenly became nervous. Are there no other players nearby? Don't worry, this place is relatively remote. How can you get here if you don't know the way? Players don't have flying units, so it must be okay, Jian Qingqing said with a sinister look on his face. Look, they are coming out. Shen Xian's army returned to the long corridor, glanced at the torches not far away, and sighed. Go and say hello to them. He and his army walked over fearlessly. There is only one route back to the ruins, and the two sides will eventually meet, but when Jian Qingqing saw Shen Xian, he was still stunned and speechless. Could it be said that he saw his purpose? The ruthless person doesn't know, but what he knows is that he needs to fight. Keep the things, the three men threatened. The swordsman behind him drew his sword without any warning, and countless blazing fighting energy was shot towards Shen Xian's body. The ruthless man obviously knew that after the player named Lord died, his army would be in chaos, and there would be chaos. Unexpectedly, his body swayed, and he did not fall down after receiving an attack output of 3000 in a blink of an eye. How is it possible? Unless it is an NPC, how can the player have such a blood volume at his current level? He was still hesitating, but Shen Xian had already used Spencer's life rescuer to restore his life. He was very satisfied with the effect of the battle. The swordsman's first round of attack lost its effect. The barbarian shouted angrily, "Destroy our enemies!" A few sharp arrows shot out first, piercing the Doom Slayer's chest fiercely. Jian Qingqing suddenly realized that he was not the first to strike. The exchange between prey and hunter was unacceptable to him. He shouted, "Cut with the flow!" The heavy two-handed sword fell in the air. Shen Xian was retreating, and Catherine hid behind the barbarian and released silent magic. It had a similar effect to the silent trap, but it lasted for a short time and could be used to interrupt the spell casting. Several battle priests lost the ability to release magic, and the Doom Slayers lost the ability to release magic. They were retreating, fearing that the crossbowmen's arrows would hit them and become victims of the war. The alchemy creatures charged forward in an orderly manner. They looked like level 15 spiders, but they looked like level 40 units. They were very imposing. Their height of 3 meters blocked their field of vision, making the three of them unable to command. They could only watch the metal spiders coming and going. Moving. Shen Xian fired, and the attack target of a dozen crossbowmen turned to the Doom Slayer. "Ah!" the Doom Slayer exclaimed. In a panic, he silently activated the mage's life-saving skill, Energy Shield, which can put the mage in a state of complete immunity from physics and magic for 9 seconds. The penalty is that he cannot cast spells. The barbarian's arrow failed to fire, and turned towards Jian Qingqing after 1 second. Shen Xian observed that Jian Qingqing was the leader of the swordsmen, so eliminating him would have a huge impact on the large number of swordsmen. Oops! Jian Qingqing turned his body and hid himself in the team of swordsmen. The crossbowman without the height advantage could not hit him, and the battle situation fell into a stalemate. Level 31, level 25, and level 22. I checked the levels of the three of them respectively. I thought that the levels were quite high. Could it be that they were obtained by brushing soldiers? Shen Xian thought. The negative effects of the life rescue device gradually appeared, his life dropped again, blood flowed from the corner of his mouth from time to time, and his movements became a little sluggish. The battle priests released healing and shielding techniques. They believed in the god of dawn and believed in using the light to destroy darkness to purify all evil. Their physical attacks were not weak, and they could sometimes be used as melee units. Wu Qingqing didn't realize it yet. He just muttered, "You want to kill me?" Shen Xian smiled non-committally, thinking that we are from opposite camps. If I don't kill you, you will come and kill me. Am I still going to sit back and wait for death? Since ancient times, attacking first leads to strength, and attacking later suffers disaster. His first attack took away the lives of countless soldiers. The alchemy creatures are still fighting the heavily armored dwarves. The attack damage of this group of metal spiders is magic type, and it is very effective against plate armor units. Their height of 3 meters blocks the stumps and allows them to fight independently. They are surrounded by metal spiders, crushing to death with spitting arcane bullets. Son! What are you doing? These idiots! He jumped around randomly, using the skills of Angry Will and Descendants of Titans to increase his attack power and defense power respectively. The red and blue lights lit up, and he used all his strength to chop up the metal spider and rush out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 73. A 10-meter wide corridor, with metal spiders blocking the front of the army, and barbarian crossbowmen shooting freely in the back, targeting those with red blood, chanting, and no life-saving skills. Shen Xian recognized that this group of barbarian crossbowmen was trained by him before, and their reactions were very sensitive. Taking out Loyal's crystal core, he tightly grasped the transparent strange ornament, and the stored level 4 magic exploded instantly. The terrifying damage of lightning, sparks, and ice crystal elemental factions was fully exerted, spreading and raging everywhere through the heavy armored dwarves and human swordsmen. The Doomslayer drank a bottle of medium effective healing potion and looked at the corpses in the field angrily. Thinking that dozens of units died after killing a few spiders, the anger in his heart was really hard to calm down. He turned his head and glared at the 2 level 50 elites, the Blue Iron Guards of the Pharaoh Empire, the legendary second turn profession, perhaps the worst second turn. The 2 elites were scum who flirted with the farmer's daughter. Unfortunately, the farmer's daughter was favored by the local lord and had to escape. She was won over by the like-minded destroyer. What's the trick? The 2 elites thought jealously, drew out the short sword and shield with indigo ancient texts and rushed over, winking at each other. There's a nice girl over there, let's wait. The 2 smiled knowingly. They were half ordinary and half elite units. Facing the arcane bullets of the metal spider, they laughed contemptuously and used magic defense. Elite. Shen Xian's expression suddenly tightened, and he was a little nervous. The level of the players was not too low. If you want to eliminate them, you must start with the leader. Issued orders, the crossbowmen drew the mithril arrows behind them, with an additional 50 points of damage, the target, the destroyer. He can be said to be defenseless without the energy shield. His target is too obvious. There is only one dwarf in the battlefield. Is there any variable? Silver light shot across the battlefield towards him. The dwarf panicked and wanted the dwarf to help him block it. Unfortunately, the arrow's penetrating properties not only hit the dwarf's body, but also penetrated the plate armor and shot into his chest. With a few hissing sounds, several lines of 150 and 210 damage floated up, and the dwarf warriors in front all fell down. The destroyer was in danger. At this time, the short-minded man rushed to Shen Xian and smashed his chest with an extremely heavy hammer. The sturdy pointed hammer collided with the ritual armor and produced a squeaking spark, which made Shen Xian retreat and swing the Azure Defender with force. The sharp sword drew unpredictable shapes in the air like lightning, bursting with light, turned around and stabbed, and 2 deep wounds in the flesh and blood cut through his chest armor, while Shen Xian's ritual armor was not damaged at all. The man who is short but not short in spirit realized that it was the difference in equipment. The defense of this player called Lord was so high that he couldn't understand it. He drank a mouthful of healing potion to recover the lost life, and used the skill of War Roar with a grin. War Roar can increase the attack of surrounding units. After using it, the body retreats quickly, but the movement of plate armor units is extremely inconvenient. The opponent's attacks are as fast as lightning and continuous, causing his life to drop continuously. Tip: the man who is short but not short in spirit triggers the blindness effect, Azure Defender, which lasts for 2 seconds. The dwarf warrior's eyes suddenly became dark. He passively used the pointed hammer to protect the vital parts, but it had no effect. The crossbowman used a crossbow with strong attack power, which is forbidden to use in the surface world, because the crossbow has a slow attack speed and terrible damage, which can cause shocking losses to heavy armored units such as mail and plate armor. Mithril arrows were unstoppable. The crossbows used by the barbarians were weapons with an attack speed of 3.5 seconds. Under the baptism of arrows, even though they were short in stature, they were on the verge of death. "Boss, kill him," the Doom Slayer screamed, making a voice like a duck's voice. Jian Wuking was more nervous than Shen Xian at this time, worried that the morale of the army would plummet after the death of the two. In terms of numbers, he was confident that he could fight, so he shouted angrily, "Take care of yourselves," and commanded the swordsmen to rush to the front. The Lord was level 26, and his health could not exceed 3,000. The attack just now had knocked off 5,000 of his life. After deducting potions and special skills, there were less than 1,000 left. Jian Wuking calculated his health through the description of his opponent and thought about how to deal with it, but he didn't know that Shen Xian had also reached a critical moment. At present, Shen Xian still had 20 barbarian crossbowmen, 10 alchemical creatures, and 3 people, 40 swordsmen, and 10 heavy armored dwarves. When Jian Wuking tried every means to kill Shen Xian did something that the 3 of them would never have thought of, and sent the barbarians to charge. Damn! Are they stupid? Aren't the barbarians rushing to the front looking for abuse? The 3 of them thought without any doubt. Attack! Cut them down. The short man but not short in spirit was completely selfless as he called on the dwarves to charge, and the dwarves surrounding him scattered one after another. Anyway, the barbarians' mithril arrows were exhausted, so there was no need to worry about being killed instantly. The Doom Slayer had the same idea, and he chanted the lightning chain spell proudly, ready to grab experience when the barbarian crossbowman died. The barbarian crossbowman quickly approached the metal spider, and they quickly climbed up the spider's back with agility. The tall and strong barbarians cooperated with the half-kneeling metal spider, which could be seen at a glance. The arrows whizzed and shot continuously, and the barbarians laughed, thinking that the Lord was indeed powerful. He thought of such a method of borrowing height. Although the metal spider could not carry them, it was more than enough to support their weight. Ren Xiao Ji Buletin Xiao and the Doom Soldier wanted to dodge, but it was too late. The arrows pierced their bodies from above, and both of them turned into corpses. Finally solved, Shen Xian took a breath. The 3 guys persisted for long enough, but it took him so long. He swept the ground with confidence and looked at the chaotic army behind the dead lord. "Damn it! What are you doing?" Jian Wuking shouted at the 2 elites who wanted to escape when they saw the bad situation, but the elites ignored him and left in a flash. The heavy dwarf was immersed in the grief of the lord's death. The attack power decreased, the defense power decreased, the reaction decreased, and the AI decreased. A series of prompts that made Jian Wuking want to vomit blood popped up, and he scolded the 2 idiots for going forward to die when their blood was red. The morale of the barbarians was boosted, and they were shooting with all their strength. Jian Wuking wanted to give orders, but when he said it, there would always be arrows greeting him. He was facing a dilemma with a low APM. Either take care of himself or take care of the army. The swordsman who rushed to the front was quickly blocked by the metal spider. The crossbowman returned to his position and fell to the ground. If he was attacked while standing on the back of the metal spider, he would fall to the ground and be knocked down for several seconds. Jianwuking can now control less than 40 swordsmen, and it is impossible to fight against Shen Xian. The heavy dwarf and the blue iron guard left the battlefield, and he was extremely panicked. The only thing he could do was to kill the opponent's players in seconds, but would Shen Xian give him a chance? Hurry up and kill that knight in seconds even if you die. Jianwuking was now in a state of confusion. He held on to his only belief and refused to let go. The swordsman wanted to rush through the spider's defense line suicidally, and the result was naturally heavy casualties. Catherine made several precise controls and left a few spiders for Shen Xian. By the way, although she was a little reluctant, she also helped him block several attacks. With Catherine's loyalty, even if the Lord asked her to do something she didn't want to do, she still had to obey, and her loyalty would not drop, because she had reached a level of worship for the local Lord. The swordsman has few opportunities to use fighting spirit, because the player always changes positions back and forth. When the swordsman wants to release skills, he often turns around immediately and wants to kill him, but he can't do anything. He just watches the swordsman fall one by one, and finally, it's himself. Tips: the player who is short but not short dies, and drops 1,212 gold and silk shirt. Tips: the player who is short but not short dies, and drops 2,346 gold and deerskin belt. Tips: the player who is cheap and ruthless dies, and drops 1,621 gold and linen wristband. At the end of the battle, 18 metal spiders were killed, and 5,179 gold was obtained. The compensation is 7,200 gold, which is really not cost-effective. There is no excellent equipment dropped. It seems that the three people are also experienced. Players can reduce the chance of dropping top-quality equipment by equipping a large number of clothes and accessories, so all the dropped items are decorative. Shen Xian's level increased by 1 level, and the barbarian increased by 1 level. After a 5-minute break, he led the team back. There were more players on the road, and there were no more people who wanted to kill and rob. Who could know that he had treasures? At the second crystal tower, Shen Xian, who had learned his lesson, replenished his troops and led about 50 soldiers to destroy it. This time, he was not spied on and returned safely, taking 1 hour, 46 minutes, and 34 seconds. At the third crystal tower, the Russian Iron Brotherhood happened to be attacking, so he saved time and completed the task in 1 hour, 21 minutes, and 23 seconds. The Arcane Hall, now occupied by the great wizards of the Tower of Silence, has become a place to issue temporary tasks. The central teleportation array can be teleported to any known building, but after Shen Xian stepped in, he was teleported to a mysterious place. Wendy's face was full of excitement. "You are really fast." She approached his body. Shen Xian stood up, secretly looked at her, and waited for the task prompt. Tip: player lords complete the task, destroy the crystal tower, and are rewarded with 50,000 experience points, food improvement and quarrying improvement technical books. Golden light lit up, upgraded, Shen Xian 28th level. "Lord, are you still willing to help me?" Wendy used her mental power to check the movement of the crystal tower and asked tentatively. "Well, why not? No reward. How is that possible?" Wendy smiled. "You really know me." Her body floated in the air, looking into the distance. A huge roar slowly sounded from the direction of the crystal tower. In the arcane hall, the chairman of the Mage Council, the first counselor Todd, who was still meditating, opened his deep eyes calmly. "Has it started?" "The separation of the elemental gate." Archmage Saran ran in breathlessly. "Sir, it's not good." No need to panic, Todd said slowly. At present, Saran is one of Todd's disciples, which is the biggest gain for him and the Gaul tough guy to find the elemental gate. Saran wanted to ask more, but at this time, the regional broadcast began. The battle between the Expeditionary Army and the Peak Fortress for the Magic Stone Fortress has begun. The two sides have started a head-on conflict. The Magic Stone Fortress is the second main battlefield of the regional mission. Please ask the warlord of the faction for details. The commanders of both sides will gather their troops within 1 hour to fight to the death. See, these stupid guys are still fighting for the control of the Magic Stone Fortress. There are a lot of ancient magic cannons, magic guns, and rare equipment in the fortress. Todd took a sip of tea and said slowly. What about us? No hurry. At this time, the second regional broadcast began. The guardians behind the Gate of Elements are trying to break away from the control of the Tower of Silence. Please gather in the Arcane Hall to stop their conspiracy. Ask Archmage Selin of the Tower of Silence for details. The Speaker of the Mages Council, Todd, will be on hand at 1. Respond within hours and lead players to the depths of the mysterious Mage Tower. Remains. Damn, how come the two major tasks are combined together? Doesn't this require us to make a choice? Several players said, dissatisfied. If you want to blame it, just blame the player who triggered the mission. He didn't share it and took advantage of it. I really want to blame him. Yeah, it's really hard to choose. Those who participate in the battle can get resource subsidies, reputation, equipment, and blueprints, all of which are real things. The Tower of Silence is also good, suitable for players who died in the army, not to mention others. It's the boss who takes action, and the commander of the expeditionary force is just a second-rate figure in the empire. The mysterious player analyzed, and the remaining players nodded in agreement. I still have 200 dwarf warriors, of course they will participate in the battle. Well, all my troops were destroyed by the All Heavens Guild, so I had to help the Tower of Silence. Some players also asked, brother, you are so strong. What is your WTP ranking? Are you a professional player? How about we hang out with you? He the fat man who was called Big Brother smiled mischievously and said, this is not good. Although I want to help you, I still have my own things to do. Could it be, the player exclaimed, muttering in his heart, could he have received a hidden mission? The fat man showed an expression that could only be understood but could not be expressed in words, and said to several people, I wish you good results, and left. What a shame, the player said. I can't help it. If I can become a master like Fatty Brother, I will do the same. The player clenched his fists and said impassionedly. TCH, your WTP ranking is 8 digits, do you have a chance? The player ridiculed, and the three players joked and slapped each other. The fat expert looked at the main entrance of the elemental gate with resentment and murmured, Old Shen, where are you? The system said I am not allowed to chat privately. Online game DungeonMaster. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 74. 1 hour ago. When Shen Xian sneaked back to the camp was filled with the tense atmosphere before the war. The players were training their armies, rehearsing possible tactics, and some had all the troops that could be hired and the scrolls that could be purchased. Come down to war, regardless of the commanding ability, the attributes, levels, equipment, etc. of the units all determine the outcome. It is conceivable that in the battle, the one who achieves the final victory will surely gain a lot of contributions. 1 point of contribution can be exchanged for 10 units of resources. 10 points of contribution can be exchanged for a level 3 magic scroll. 100 contribution points can be exchanged for excellent intermediate equipment. 1000 contribution points can be exchanged for excellent architectural drawings and military technical books. Contribution points can be exchanged for countless valuable things, and players have to invest. In other words, even if they do not participate in the battle, there is not much loss, but the gap between them and the players who participate in the battle is still widened. Because her magic was exhausted, Catherine returned to her territory and it only took 1 hour to ride the dragon. In the camp, Mist Aaron flipped through the magic book early and waited for Shen Xian. The two met and a private chat started. "Old Shen, what are you doing? Is it the legendary hidden mission? What's the matter with Lao Gu? Could it be that you're not far away? Can you guess this?" Gu Jingwei looked in disbelief and asked, "Where are you?" "I'm coming to find you." Shen Xian told him his camp number. Gu Jingwei chose an elf. Logically speaking, he should be handsome and slender. But when you actually see him, you will find that the person in front of you is a fat elf with a waistline like an ogre. Shen Xian was confused as to why elves could grow so fat. In fact, he had never seen fat elves appear in fantasy novels. Behind Gu Jingwei stood a silver-haired little girl, level 50, named Cecilia. This was a gorgeously dressed little girl with beautiful emerald-like pupils, smooth skin like suet, and most importantly, some of the gear she's wearing looks pretty awesome. Rare level? Epic? Or legendary level? He guessed, and what he got in return was the fat man's very proud smile. It looked like he was the evil uncle who deceived the little girl. Shen Xian wanted to rescue the little girl from the dire straits, and then told her to take off her clothes and show them to me. What exactly are its attributes? Soon, several more players poured into the camp. They were fierce-looking, burly-backed, and said they would kill without repaying their lives. They were the bosses of the Mad Demon Studio. The tall, elegant, and scrawny guy is called Brother Cha-Cha, and he is the boss of Fatty's studio. It turns out that the fat man and his men have all come here. Looking behind them, they have led an army of 500 elves. They look like they are going to fight for their lives. Old Shen, you have such a beautiful girl in your golden house. There is such a beautiful young lady in the camp. The fat man glanced at Mysterine and said with a smile. Aren't you about the same? Why are you here? Could it be that your regional mission is over and you are here to fight in the autumn wind? Shen Xian asked. No, I think if we can earn some tasks here, we should develop better. You don't know, our village can be said to be deteriorating and difficult now. At this time, Cecilia grabbed the fat man's clothes and said, My uncle, I want to eat. Gu Jingwei took out a few berries from the package with trembling hands and said, Cecilia, you are hungry again. These are dew fruits collected in the Moonlight Grove. Eat them quickly. Is there nothing else? The little girl raised her mouth and said, I want to eat dragon blood fruit, it is the essence of life. The little girl's coquettishness was obviously too much for the fat man to bear. Shen Xian seemed to have guessed that the little girl was deceived by the fat man. He also needed to take care of her daily life, food and clothing, and the name of the dragon blood fruit. I know it's an awesome thing, but how can players afford it at this stage? He wanted to laugh. You don't know how much this little guy eats from me every day? If it weren't for the life flower crown on her head that can increase the resource production of the territory and its possessions by 10%, I would really sell her to Maurius's night bar as a call girl. How could you be so determined to do something so cruel as a beast? The fat man gave a look of disdain in return, as if to say that you are the only one who knows how to show mercy to women. Anyway, Lao Shen, have you received any hidden missions? If so, please help me. If you really want to participate in some bullshit battle, I guess there's not much money to be made. Unlike your current ranking of 4th, even if you don't participate, you will fall to 5th or 6th at most. The 4th and 6th special rewards were the same, so Shen Xian gave up pursuing contribution and chose to focus on completing Wendy's hidden mission. After thinking for a while, he led them to the interior of the elemental gate. Wendy looked extremely anxious after waiting for a long time. Do you also want to do a mission? Wendy turned her autumn eyes and showed a treacherous smile. After thinking for a moment, she pointed to the fortress in the distance and said, Did you see the Siwa fortress at the door? Help me eliminate the intruders. It's your mission, you can check the rewards yourself and choose whether to accept them or not. Resources, Fatty asked after opening the mission description and reading the rewards. Yes, take away as many resources as you can. Think about it, an army of 500 can take away 10,000 units of resources, which is pretty good. Isn't this difficult, the fat man thought to himself. I took dozens of tough men to trek thousands of miles and walked for more than 10 hours to get here, and only earned 10,000 resources. Can't you really change it to something else? Fatty asked in a consulting tone. If you complete the task well, I will reward you with some rare level equipment. Wendy thought about it, and there were still a lot of things in the scrap pile, so she gave them all to them. The fat man hesitated for a while but chose to accept it. Then Wendy glanced at Shen Xian. Everyone looked at Wendy and Shen Xian's intimacy and wondered why we didn't have such an affair, and they were all jealous. I need you to find the crazy Springer spirit and get him here. Springer is not dead. Yes, you will understand. Soon, the Council of Mages will come, and Springer will have to help stop it, so that there will be no accidents. Tip, the player lord accepts the task, looking for Springer, elite level, limited to 30 minutes, be careful of the crazy Springer, you will be turned into coke if you are not careful, reward 45,000 experience, and Wendy's favor. In the Arcane Hall, Archmage Selin has organized an army and prepared it. There are a lot of players here, but only a few of them have armies. Either they were completely wiped out in the previous battles, or they don't want the army to suffer losses, so Selin brought the army. When a 2,000-strong army composed of more than 1,000 players arrived in front of Siwa Fortress, even Todd frowned. So few. Yes. Well, forget it, they are not the main force anyway. Their existence is to distract the attention of the elemental gate. Todd loudly announced to the players, your mission is to capture this fortress. Don't think that it can be done easily without players inside. Because you are facing an unimaginable enemy. Todd took out the epic equipment and shouted, this will be your reward. The moment they saw the epic equipment, all the players were excited. After all, they are all epic equipment. So far, they can be counted on their fingers. If they can get one, the level and reputation will be what they want. What's there? Online game DungeonMaster. Author, Buletin Lau Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 75. Inside the Gate of Elements, the architectural style is full of classicism and elegance. Stairs and corridors built in mid-air lead to every corner. Although there is a convenient teleportation circle, it has long lost its function due to disrepair. The location where Springer is located is an abandoned library with a spire structure and a main entrance about 5 meters high, resembling a church. Entering it, bursts of warmth can be seen everywhere. The magic circle, like an air conditioner, is still working and releasing heat. However, the terrain in the library is very complicated. Due to the influence of disordered magic, there is a cloud floating in the air. Ancient books and bookshelves are either crooked or buried in ruins. The spatial structure is chaotic. The size of more than tens of thousands of square meters makes it difficult to draw a map. Looking for it based on intuition, even Shen Xian doesn't know why Springer appears here. The 30-minute time limit was quite a challenge, because the round-trip journey took more than 15 minutes. Shen Xian tried his best to observe, trying to find some clues. He thought that a character like Springer would be so low-key that he would not make any noise, and the light and shadow would not be the same. Issue: Mysteron's detection magic has no effect, because in such a place, there is interference everywhere. After searching in the empty library for 5 minutes, he didn't find any clues. Could it be that Springer was really playing hide and seek and didn't want to see him? Or maybe Springer is invisible, suffering from a solidification deformation spell. Reduction surgery? He speculated. Mist Aaron glanced back and forth with several crazy demons. The crazy demon's sense of smell was very sensitive, but there was still no result. The girl thought for a while and suggested, "Can we shout loudly? There is no danger in a place like this." The interior of the Gate of Elements was firmly controlled by Wendy, with thousands of arcane guards and elemental warriors obeying her instructions. After hearing Mr. Aaron's suggestion, Shen Xian felt that it made sense and shouted, "Si-Master Binga, where are you?" I don't know if it was a stroke of luck or something, but as soon as the sound came out, an old-fashioned reply came from somewhere in the library, "Who is looking for Springer? What is your purpose?" The sound made people feel like their hairs were standing on end. Soon, a short goblin appeared in front of the two of them. Master Springer was well known in Teredan's era, and many of Shen Xian's equipment were his masterpieces. As a well-known alchemist master, it would be a blessing to have him refine equipment for you. The goblin in front of him had a strange appearance. He was covered in metal armor and his eyes glowed bright yellow. To be honest, he looked like a robot. Similar to what Shen Xian guessed, Springer did indeed have no body. Teredan's era has been more than 3,000 years ago. Who else can have an immortal body? Except for gods, demons, and liches, their lifespans are almost endless. Even the lifespan of dragons is only a few thousand years. Although the lifespan of legendary mages has been extended, it is impossible to live until now. Springer used a mechanical body to obtain eternity, but this method is a bit drastic. Who is not a unique mad scientist like this? Still wanting to talk to Springer, the Goblin Archmage was the first to speak. "Do you want to steal the library's information?" "No. Absolutely not." Having said that, before hearing Shen Xian's response, the Goblin Archmage first threw a bottle of explosive oil into the air. Shen Xian knew the power of explosive oil. As a byproduct of alchemists refining potions, explosive oil was no different from grenades. He hurriedly pushed Mr. Aaron away and stepped back, trying to avoid the explosion of explosive oil. Range, but still received 2,000 points of damage. Looking at the ground beneath my feet, I saw that a hole with a diameter of 5 meters was blown out of the ground where the six-pointed star was drawn. The power was really terrifying. He suddenly understood the meaning of the mission prompt, and when he wanted to get up, the second bottle of explosive oil followed. Danger! He hurriedly activated the instant blood regeneration effect of the Life Rescuer, rolled back in embarrassment, and shouted, "Miss Wendy." Springer's crazy behavior suddenly stopped. "What? Wendy? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Con, you didn't let me say it." Shen Xian thought depressedly and began to tell Wendy's request. "I understand, I'll go with you." Springer became much more efficient after returning to normal. It only took 5 seconds to go back. Now the two remaining antiques from the Gate of Elements are standing in front of them. Next, what kind of tasks are needed to break away from the shackles of the main material plane? Fatty, the battle has already begun. Hundreds of junior shooters are standing in front of Siwa Fortress, waiting for the players to attack the city gate. In front of Siwa Fortress is an ascending staircase that is only 10 meters wide. It is extremely difficult to defend. Fatty was happily thinking about what he could build with the 10,000 resources he obtained when he returned. At this time, there was a commotion in the players' army. Players in the Tower of Silence camp have both underground forces and surface forces. The same thing is that they do not carry siege machinery. Siege machinery can be built in the 4th stage of the territory. It is obviously impossible to build the strength in the 2nd stage now, but don't forget. There is also the Archmage of the Tower of Silence, the 5th Counselor Crassus, who is a petty fat man who cannot be offended. When he saw an arrogant fat elf not far from the fortress, he hurriedly recited the spell of continuous fireballs. The Archmage is a 3rd-level profession, and the effect of releasing magic is of course earth-shattering. From his palm, hundreds of fireballs the size of basins roared out, hitting the gate of Siwa fortress, causing a series of 3,000 damage. After all, they are strong, so powerful, the players talked about it, and all tried to move forward, thinking that as long as Crassus blasted open the gate of the Shiva fortress, the elves would be at their mercy after they entered. Crassus was very angry about the participation of the elves, but the elves were not the power of the Pharaoh Empire, and the Tower of Silence could not restrain them. He could only use practical actions to tell them that the Tower of Silence was not easy to mess with. Awesome! The other side actually has the help of a level 110 boss, why don't we have it? Fatty shouted unhappily, how come we are all masters? It doesn't matter if we are abused by NPCs, but being killed by players is really a disgrace to us, the crazy demon, the fat boy. Don't you think so? Killing without paying for life and Brother Cha-Cha both laughed, that's right, boss, if we are killed, you have to ask Lao Shen for mental damages. Fatty patted his chest and said, I have been friends with him for decades, and I can guess his bank password, so there is no problem with this kind of thing. After saying that, he narrowed his eyes in the distance and asked, do they have any masters? Brother Cha-Cha replied, yes, I saw FK from South Korea, Brother C from Brazil, and X-Man from the United States. In short, they are all masters. Everyone's face fell again, they all come to take advantage, thinking that helping the Tower of Silence can make them gods. No. Everyone fight for them, tell them that we are not easy to bully. The beast's blood boiled because of what the fat man said, and even the elves were deeply affected by it and showed madness. Kill. You'll have 3 days off after you go back. Really? Several members asked. Really? But you're excluded, the fat man said with a grin. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 76. Wendy circled around Shen Xian's body and said, next, all the great mages of the Mage Council will enter here. When entering the other plane, the defense is the weakest. I have to control the operation of the magic circle, so if I die, it will fail. Spenger nodded, his eyes full of expectation. Shen Xian felt a sense of great responsibility, and his back was a little cold. With a little player of less than level 30, could he fight against the big boss of more than level 100? Nothing is impossible. Because he continued to listen to the two people's requests, he knew that he could not escape. Just hold them for 30 minutes. Wendy showed a little bird-like look, and Shen Xian could not refuse. After all, the task has reached this level, can he still stay out of the world? My great mage Spenger needs to repair the space magic circle, so. Spenger spread his hands to him, showing helplessness and sympathy. Take these. Spenger handed Shen Xian a small colorful belt. Spinger's potion belt, rare, defense 30, strength 25, agility 25, improves life recovery by 1, healing effect of potions and divine arts by 25%, can provide extra space to carry a large number of potions. It can't be all some kind of extremely effective healing potion, divine magic reagent or other heaven-defying potion, Shen Xian thought to himself, and opened the additional item bar provided by the belt. It was full of Spenger series explosion oil, with damage starting from 5 digits. The problem is, there is a shelf life. Please use it within 30 minutes, otherwise Spenger Alchemy Workshop will not be responsible for any accidents. Insidious system. With the spirit of facing death, Shen Xian came to the solemn stairs leading to the inner element hall, and familiarized himself with the use of potions with Miss Lin. The two cooperated tacitly and hid face to face with the big boss. Isn't this a way to seek death? The Mage Council represents most of the mage power on the Night Star continent. Perhaps some old antiques like to live in seclusion and don't like to participate in such an organization. There is no doubt that the Mage Council is indeed powerful enough. Todd led the 9 counselors into the solemn staircase, and they summoned countless units immediately with caution. Extra-dimensional summoning, this is a low-level magic, usually only used when the mage dies. It can summon unknown terrible creatures, without distinction of camps, and indiscriminate attacks. For the Archmage, if he accidentally summons a powerful existence such as a demigod, it is really a terrifying thing for the enemy. The first wave of attack began with such a lineup of 25 level scavenger wolves, 40 level ice spiders, and 85 level 3-headed chimeras. Several Archmage masters followed carefully behind. Using summoned units to open the way has always been their strategy, and it is a good idea to use it to clear traps. With hundreds of wild beasts rushing over, the wide stairs were crowded, and behind the stairs, hundreds of arcane guards rushed over and started fighting with them. Shen Xian took the time to make up the knife and scare the mage counselors who wanted to rush over. After a few minutes, he grew 1 level. The game is set up like this. A level 1 player who fights a level 2 player will get experience bonus, and a level 1 player who fights a level 10 player will get experience penalty. Therefore, knowing the rules of the game, he had to look for a level 25 scavenger wolf. Level 29, level 30, 10 minutes later, he entered the level 30 stage, and his health soared to about 4,000. The same is true for Miss Erlin. Her level of last hitting is not as strong as Shen Xian, and she is still growing at the level of an ordinary unit. Therefore, at level 30, her health is just 1,500. In this situation, Shen Xian suddenly felt a bit like the Guardian Goddess mode of the World of Warcraft series. They have to protect their hometown, and the evil Mage Council wants to push the goddess. The difference is that he does not have the ability to cut monsters like mowing grass. Such a melee cannot last for a long time. Both sides are head-on and consume quickly. Then, the second wave of charge comes. Level 30 Nightblade Leopard, level 65 Blood Troll, this is the second wave of offensive force. It's time for us to go. Todd smiled meaningfully, leaving a few counselors behind, and used the flying spell with the remaining counselors, crossing the army on the ground and rushing inside. The lightning speed and the difference in level made Shen Xian unable to identify who they were, but he guessed that they were several powerful people from the Tower of Silence. Would Wendy be in danger? Lord Shen Xian, I'm here, I'll be watching, you go help Miss Wendy, Miss Erlin said obediently. Okay. At this time, the system's prompt sound came. Miss Erlin took over part of the control of the arcane guards of the elemental gate. Is there such a good thing? A little depressed, he pulled back. Here, the army commanded by Miss Erlin lined up in a neat array and launched a counterattack. After Shen Xian's training, Miss Erlin's command level was almost the same as his, and he ordered the arcane guards to retreat and form an inward concave encirclement structure. What's going on? The defense line is advancing. Why is the loss so shocking? The mage counselors were all muttering. The alien creatures summoned with great effort had low AI, no organization or coordination. Under the command of Miss Lin, the arcane guards obeyed every order, and all tactics such as encirclement and AoE were used. It was still difficult to see clearly from a distance, but when you got closer, countless corpses piled up like a mountain, which was shocking to see. The counselors were still asking questions. When they came closer, they found that the arcane guards, who were said to be more idiotic than the ogres, actually came to the AoE like the dwarf musketeers, making them all vomit blood. No, we can't do this. Go down. If you don't divert enough burden here, Master Todd will be under too much pressure. Shen Xian came to the elemental palace, and the smuggling operation of the elemental gate was still in progress. Thunder-like thick energy pillars penetrated every corner of the mage tower. The surrounding scene sometimes turned into the earth and dust of the underground world, and sometimes became distorted. The dark void of space, the coexistence of light and darkness, and even when you lower your head, you will find strange scenes of blurry hands and feet from time to time. These are the inevitable results of teleportation from another dimension. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lau Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 77. When Todd and the congressman arrived, 2 minutes had passed. When they saw Wendy's true form, they were still in awe. What could be more terrifying than the creature made of the magic they studied and used? Imagine priests. The magic they use is the power given by gods. When the gods who give power appear in front of them, what kind of expression should they show? The elemental faction is an extremely large branch of the magic system. It may not be as closely related as priests and gods, but it is enough to surprise them. It's not too late to stop now, Todd shouted. Wendy didn't respond. Let's get started. The council members exchanged opinions with each other, raised their staffs, and slowly spit out strange melodies word by word from their mouths, like the roar of thunder, with boundless power. Waves of mental shocks spread in all directions, and the surrounding scenes torn apart by the laws of space showed signs of easing. Don't forget, there is also the great Archmage Springer, a thin figure rushed out. Don't try to get Teredan's inheritance. Springer pointed at Todd and said, "You are using my masterpiece, and now I take away your right to use it." Like the sound of breaking glass, the legendary weapon in Todd's hand, the top of Ramus Dragonfire Holy Staff, and the intact Crystal Dragon statue suddenly fell down, along with traces of magic power flowing away. The staff, it has completely lost its effect. Springer is crazy. Many times, it is difficult to understand whether his actions are still in line with his will, but he is still at level 100 and can still compete with level 140 Todd. Todd was ready to accept the challenge. His mental pressure suddenly relaxed, and the force tearing apart the space became stronger. Shen Xian admired this wonderful scene. At this time, the dam system began to harass again. The Lord took over control of some of the arcane guards of the elemental gate. Shen Xian hid first. He didn't want to be caught and silenced when he was in the mood of commanding. Moreover, arcane guards were different from ordinary soldiers. Orders did not require words and were issued directly through the spiritual world. It was really convenient. You need to find someone with a better field of vision who can observe the surrounding movements and control the situation easily. When he moved, the archmages of the Mages Council did not notice him. Perhaps it was because his level was too low, so he was completely ignored. After checking the distribution situation of the surrounding arcane guards, 324 can still fight within 5 minutes, and 2,310 can be mobilized from the internal warehouse within 15 minutes. According to Shen Xian's idea, this number is presumed to be enough for them, but is it really that easy? He first made a tentative attack, and several arcane guards quietly approached the 11th councilman, the lowest level. Just as he imagined, the arcane guards turned into a pile of scrap metal within 5 seconds. Counselor 11 used a level 6 magic scroll. This thing is worth thousands of gold, but the Archmage earns hundreds of thousands every year. Why is he reluctant to use such a thing? Having fully understood the attacks of the mages, he sent out 7 or 8 arcane guards one after another. Their positions were very particular, with a distance of about 10 meters from front to back, left and right, and it took him a lot of time to let the arcane guards out. The guards understand that such a distance is the critical point for magic attacks. If they want to cover the entire field, a large amount of additional magic power must be spent. In the next minute, arcane guards rushed over in a steady stream and easily defrauded dozens of magic scrolls. When they realized it, they wanted to summon alien creatures, but it was not very convenient because the space was terminated. The tiering of power requires equal strength. This power is not provided by humans, but is the gate of the elements. In other words, they were competing with gods. Under such circumstances, they were unwilling to devote their energy to destroying the arcane guards who appeared around them. In fact, for archmages with hundreds of thousands or millions of lives, the attacks of arcane guards have no effect. They were being beaten. Springer was still throwing explosive oil, all with 6-digit equivalents. Archmage Todd was very powerful, and he couldn't withstand the horror of the explosion. However, Springer with a mechanical body was immune to all kinds of negative effects, so he was extremely upset. In a place like this, flashy damage magic has no meaning. Instead, Springer blasted the ground at the Gate of Elements into devastation, like a battlefield that had been plowed 3 times by bombers. The terrain became complicated, and Todd floated into the air. He released a simple and direct mental shock, bombarding Springer's chest, and a huge 82,530 damage jumped out. Wendy stood in the center of the back of the hall. As the head of the smuggler, she played an important role. The Archmage had not yet taken action. The loss of such a rare elemental lord would be an irreparable regret for the Northern Mage community. Here, at Shen Xian's side, nearly 1,000 arcane guards were gathered at the outskirts of the Hall of Elements. The alchemy creatures with extremely perfect military appearance and posture made him feel extremely satisfied. He ordered the dispatch, and the flood of arcane guards began. Attack from several passageways in the palace. The arcane attendants rushed over with arcane guards, and what greeted them was a magic bombing. With so many arcane guards, how could the mage counselors not resist? What if it's too late and you won't be rounded to death? However, the secret servant's tactical strategy was very strange. He started to withstand the attack of the mage counselor. After 5 seconds, he turned on the magic flip and accelerated. Under the effect of the magic reversal, the life of the arcane servants was restored, and they rushed forward and launched a new attack. The mage counselor threw out a magic scroll worth tens of thousands of gold, which exploded and rumbled all around. Level 7 Lightning Chain, damage 5,650. Level 8 Energy Explosion, damage 12,200. The damage figures were still doubling again and again. Shen Xian was glad that if he was still there, he would probably not even have a complete body left. The arcane guard was not so lucky. The ground was full of metal slag, flowing magma, ruins, and destruction everywhere. Sacrifice is inevitable. Shen Xian told himself that in the face of a huge gap, there was no chance to use dirty tricks, and he could only fill it with the sacrifice of soldiers. The originally suspended trend has undergone new changes, and the tearing force of space has taken the lead again. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 78. 6 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. Todd's face changed, and he took out the 9th level mirror scroll from his arms and left the battle. The fierce resistance was beyond his imagination. Fighting in a place like the Elemental Hall would also affect the performance of the mage. It seemed that he had to use it for the sake of the Elemental Gate. He suddenly landed, and the mage counselors also gathered. Speaker, do you really want to release the time barrier? We can still hold on. As long as we wait until the energy of the magic crystal is completely exhausted, we will win. Yes, this is too dangerous. Todd shook his head, his eyes revealed determination. He knocked the dragon-headed scepter on the ground with force. In front of the boundless power, a huge magic circle appeared. The miraculous scene seemed to be created in an instant. This strange magic circle with ancient texts shone with a strange light that could confuse mortals. Knowing that the speaker's decision could not be changed, the counselors all stood in their respective positions and silently recited the spell. A powerful impact suddenly broke out and suddenly scattered the army. Then the magic circle slowly turned, gradually showing a powerful force. During the 3-minute spell, Shen Xian tried to stop them. It seemed that the bosses were performing some kind of evil ritual, ready to make a final decision, but the army that rushed over turned into molten iron before they even got close. It was a terrible defensive force, and there was no chance for anyone to take advantage. Even if the 75-level arcane attendant Leon was sent, this alchemical creature with 70,000 lives fell down 0.1 seconds after approaching. You should know that the time barrier is a long-lost forbidden spell. It gathers all the power of the great wizards and temporarily stops time. After the release, all the great wizards will be drained of magic power, so it will not be so easy to interrupt. In desperation, he had to find Spencer. Maybe he could know something, but he was temporarily in a state of madness and could not help Shenxian. Should the element gate belong to the Tower of Silence? Spencer suddenly asked. How is it possible? If they get the elemental gate, you, Master Spencer, will have no place to study and learn. You may even be imprisoned as a poor goblin laborer. If Spencer had not been crazy, Shenxian would not have fooled him so easily, but now, with a few words, Spencer redefined his goal. I understand that Teredan belongs to the world, not to the Tower of Silence. Spencer regained some of his sanity, picked up the explosive oil and threw it towards the barrier. With a rumbling sound, this can be said to be his most terrifying attack. Even the floor disappeared cleanly in an instant. What kind of destructive power is this? But it was too late. The time barrier happened to be completed at this time. A strange force enveloped the entire hall. His voice, hands, feet, and heartbeat all stopped. Even the falling dust stopped in mid-air. He stood there with a very strange pose, looking at Todd and the congressman's exhausted but hopeful expressions. In the face of stagnant time, no one can resist the boundless power. Being pulled into the elemental gate of an unknown plane and returning again, does it mean that the mission will fail? Shiva Fortress. Why is there something wrong with the sky above the boss's head? It's colorful and looks like mosaics. Mosaic shit, Brother Cha-Cha snorted. You've watched too much AV. I can tell you responsibly that we have traveled through time, for example, to the Teredan era 3,000 years ago. With the historical knowledge we have mastered, we can turn the clouds and rain with our hands. What if we travel to the elf-free era 3,000 years later? We won't be locked up in the alien beast room to visit. What if humans still want to continue the bloodline of the elves and force me and Cecilia to marry? The fat man sighed to the sky. Everyone raised their middle fingers. While everyone was arguing, the little girl shouted innocently outside, "Hey! Why are all the stairs outside broken? How interesting." The fat man touched the little girl's head and said lewdly, "Because we are in the plane channel, these weak buildings will of course fly away. Look. That X-man is also flying. How about letting Uncle help you shoot him down?" "Okay," the little girl shouted excitedly. The bows and arrows of 100 elf archers were aimed at X-man who was floating in the sky. The fat man thought that if you can't hang up and float to the star world or some other ghost place, it will be troublesome, so let the boss help you make a break. Thousands of arrows pierce the heart. Suddenly there was a scream in the sky, and just like that, the American Master X-Man died in a foreign land because he did not evacuate in time. The scene in the sky suddenly began to change again. "Boss, what's going on? It's changing again. Are we discovered by some Lord God and are we going to be killed soon? How is that possible? Sister Wendy is so beautiful, how could any god dare to destroy her? If I knew, I would definitely snatch her godhood, send her down to the lower world, and torture her slowly." The fat man's words were of course not heard by the jealous Lord God, otherwise he would have been torn into pieces. In a short 1 minute, the elemental gate that was pulled into the other plane returned sharply, and Wendy's hazy figure kept floating, as if she was running out of energy. Everyone wanted to resist, but they could not move under the effect of the time barrier and were powerless. The lost treasure of Teredan that disappeared in history will be reborn in this era, Todd said slowly. His hands seemed to hold endless power, his eyes seemed to emit boundless power. He stood, but he was really only one step away from victory. At the moment when the time barrier ended, the Goblin Archmage shouted fanatically, "Spenger won't let you take everything," and rushed over with force, fighting with him. 10,000, 15,000 Archmage with mechanical body has strong melee ability, which makes Todd, who is in excitement, extremely angry. Even the arcane guards rushed into the hall to attack as much as possible. The battle was extremely tragic. The endless magic made the surrounding space a little distorted, and hundreds of arcane guards fell. Although it cost more than hundreds of thousands to make them, they were still vulnerable in front of the Archmage. Todd looked at Wendy not far away with the confidence of a winner, but at this moment, a powerful force suddenly emerged from the outside of the element gate, pulling the element gate back at a very fast speed. Huh? What's in the sky? Boss, is it an immortal? You idiot, the Immortal Company of Immortal Kingdom has gone bankrupt, and you are still thinking about immortals. Let me see. The fat man narrowed his chubby eyes full of fat, ready to make an authoritative conclusion, but was called by the little girl first. Uncle, what are you still looking at? Isn't it just an element? The fat man felt that he was very unlucky. How could he have such a cute little girl? He was a model worker, a pioneer in learning, a flower protector, and a matchmaker in school. How could his character be so unlucky? Why? Brother Cha-Cha and Sha-Sha Bullet and Zaiming shouted, "Little girl, it's really an element. What do so many elements mean?" Probably. We went to the elemental plane. It is said that the elemental plane has been closed for a long time. I didn't expect that we can come here to travel. The little girl jumped up excitedly. At her innocent age, she was full of curiosity about everything. If possible. Uncle, can we go out and play? The fat man was speechless. Shen Xian also sensed this power. Could it be that there are other helpers? He was suddenly very happy, thinking that Wendy must have other arrangements. Of course, I, who have nothing to do with him, don't know. Since I know there is still hope of victory, I must fight hard. The master is of course very fierce when he gets angry. He doesn't care about the life and death of the arcane guards and sends them all over. Snap! 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 The successive attacks left the great wizards powerless to resist. Shen Xian discovered the skill effect of the arcane servant's silence. As long as 6 arcane servants could surround one great wizard, he could be prevented from casting magic forever. 7 counselors needed 42 arcane servants, provided that they could surround them at the same time. This was of course a very technical matter, but it was a piece of cake for Shen Xian. This sudden force frightened Todd. He did not expect to encounter resistance from the elemental plane, nor did he expect that Wendy's ultimate goal was here. He had never failed since he released the time barrier, but today he miscalculated. He knew that it was impossible to fight for the elemental gate in the elemental plane, because they were powerless to fight against the endless elemental army, and they still needed to survive. His face was covered with sweat, and his original self-confidence was completely gone. Using the teleportation scroll to leave before dying seemed to be their only choice. Tip: before the 4th counselor, Archmage Saruman Engel, died, he used the teleportation scroll, and a strange light lit up. Tip: the player lord gained 65,000 experience points. Tip: before the 7th counselor, Archmage Sirs, died, he used the teleportation scroll, and a strange light lit up. Tip: the player lord gained 75,000 experience points. Just as Shen Xian beat several counselors half to death, the counselors who were eager to survive all escaped with the help of the teleportation scroll, with great regret in their hearts. After all, they won, so he was happy and joyful on his face. The escape of the counselors made the relocation of the elemental gate no longer have any obstacles, and more fire elements approached the elemental gate. Relying on the breath of their own kind, they quickly found Wendy and assisted in the relocation. This force gradually increased, forming an irreversible trend, allowing the mage tower to land and enter the elemental plane. A rumbling vibration announced the victory of the relocation operation and the failure of the Tower of Silence, and also ended this battle. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lau Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 79. It's over, the fat man panted, but how do we go back? Without the spatial coordinates, the half-baked magic knowledge they mastered was useless. The fat man sighed, and the remaining members looked at each other, as if to say, "Why are you looking at me? Is there an answer on my face?" When everyone was worried, the light came on, and they were teleported to the exhibition room behind the Hall of Elements. This was a brightly lit room, very spacious, with crystal chandeliers hanging from the curved dome, and magic guards standing on the walls on both sides. Wendy was waiting with a smile, and what made everyone jealous was that Shen Xian stood there early, his eyes occasionally looking at the epic equipment placed everywhere, as if he wanted to take them all. No wonder some people say that marrying a good woman can save a man 30 years of struggle. If Lao Shen took the things here, wouldn't he have formed the most heaven-defying army in the world? In the exhibition room, there were so many lost treasures that even Shen Xian was thinking about how Teredin collected these rare treasures. There are more than 50 epic items and more than 10 legendary items recorded in history. He also suspected that in a dark and dangerous corner somewhere in the showroom, there was an ancient artifact forged by the gods. He saw the Great Building Era, the Savage Codex, and the Key of Solania. The Great Building Era, epic, book, a travelogue written by the famous bard Elad that records the miracles of countless forgotten countries, including the Pantheon of the Kingdom of Sen, the Menodeon Lighthouse of Ferrol, and the Great Infinite Wall of the Emerald Kingdom. It can improve the building attributes of the territory by 10%, increase the user's experience by 1 million, once, and the related skill level 2, temporary. The Savage Codex, epic, book, the governance notes of the grassland barbarian Saint Reuben. Legend has it that Saint Reuben defeated the 7 kings of the barbarian world, conquered the Centaur tribe, the Forest Dwarf Kingdom, the Orc tribe, and made most of the broken continent. The world becomes the territory of the barbarians, improves the favorability of the relevant camp by 50, improves the user's experience by 1 million, once, opens 6 barbarian-related professional transfers, and 5 related technologies. The Key of Solania, epic, the key to the Oblivion Kingdom. According to historical records, the legendary Legion of the Ryan Empire manipulates a powerful force that can fight against dragons. It opens 4 human-related professional transfers and 3 related technologies. It is necessary to complete the heroic quest The Truth of Oblivion. These 3 epic items alone have unusual origins. It is hard to imagine what kind of treasures exist among the unknown items. These are all items that can improve the overall attributes of the territory, and there are also magic weapons that can improve the attributes of units, such as the Crown of Sacred Glory, the Morning Star of Betrayal, and the Tear of Demel Angel of Tears, which are all extremely famous epic items. Wendy has been promoted. She is now a level 120 Flame Monarch. She is wearing a red wrap, with a noble temperament and elegant manners. She said to the fat man in a carefree manner, "The mission is completed. Next. Fatty, you go back first." "Miss Wendy, is there no extra reward?" The fat man was shameless. When he thought about the fierce battle, the insidious and mean fat man of the 5th counselor always used energy bullets to shoot, his heart was bleeding. Why did he suffer heavy losses in this mission? He had no credit but also worked hard. It was really not good to return empty-handed. Wendy thought about it. This fat man's eyes were too sharp, so he couldn't let him choose. He smiled and said, "Then, little girl, you choose an item." Cecilia heard the call of Sister Wendy and came out with great interest. The little girl was still childish. She looked around and chose a shiny thing without any idea. The fat man held his head and howled, thinking that he was doomed. No matter what he got, it was in Cecilia's hands anyway, and he would still be restricted by her. Seeing what the little girl was holding, Shen Xian shouted, "It's a conspiracy cage." Wendy continued with satisfaction, "It's not a strange prop made by the son of conspiracy to deceive mortals. Little sister, you have a really good eye. The conspiracy cage can make units difficult to kill, can deceive units with low AI, and can hide the breath of units. It is a top-notch equipment for thieves, assassins, and other professions to kill and rob. It can only be used as a toy for the little girl. This is a new village somewhere in the southern part of the Night Star continent. The name of the Lord is selling body, not art." A beautiful girl in a black undead skeleton outfit wiped the sweat from her head and said softly, 500 population, 50 satisfaction, 10 prosperity, 10 civilization, 10 miracles can complete the upgrade of the village center. Listening to her exchange, the system prompt sounded, "The assembly center of selling your body, not selling your art has been successfully upgraded to the village center. Do you want to broadcast it to the world?" The girl nodded gently and chose to agree. Tip: player selling your body, not selling your art, China, becomes the world's first player to upgrade the village center, and is rewarded with 500 add 1000 add 2000 reputation, 100 population, and 1000 basic resources. Every corner of the world. Famous British player, *boy, how is it possible? During the internal test, the fastest player took 20 days to enter the third stage. I didn't expect that it only took 15 days. Famous Italian player, Tyrant Nero, damn it. 15 minutes left, missed the world's number one. My beauty, my Euro. Famous American player, Playgirl, haha, so what if I'm number one in the world? Kingdom is not a game of speed. China's unknown player, Black Mountain Old Demon, selling yourself but not art is too powerful, after all, he is the idol we worship. China's unknown player, Hunyuan Patriarch, yes, after all, he is the president of Honghuang. Number one in the world, Shen Xian was also shocked when he received the system broadcast, because he knew that the original body of selling yourself but not art was still completing the task in the immortal tomb, and he didn't expect that his special unit would be so competitive and developed to the center of the village. He thought he should take care of himself, and when he looked up, he found that Wendy had already teleported to him. "Lord, what reward do you want? Because you have made great contributions, you can choose it yourself." Wendy knew that the girl next to the Lord, Miss Erlin, was different from Cecilia, and would give priority to the development of the territory, without any difference. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buletin Lau Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 80. There are more than 100 items in the showroom, but to achieve the best effect, it takes a lot of time to analyze and consider. The value of the legendary level cannot be denied, such as the conspiracy cage that Fatty got. The problem is that it will take at least 3 months to master its power. 10 minutes, Shen Xian selected 5 items, Wendy nodded, and said, "You don't want all of them." Shen Xian said in his heart, "I want all of them, but you want to give them to the system and won't let me." He shook his head and checked the attributes of the items. The first item is called the Earth Core, which is a very vulgar name. The most important attribute is that it can increase the stone production of the territory and improve the attributes of military buildings. There is no task yet. In addition to the lack of additional attributes, he has a high evaluation. Earth Core, Epic Level, a strange item transformed from the torso of the Earth Lord Neandro, which prompts the territory's stone production by 20%, increases the territory's non-basic resource production by 5%, randomly generates various gems, and increases the military building attributes by 10%. The second item is called the Great Alchemist Ring, which is another rather vulgar name. It has appeared in the internal test, and increases the resource production in the territory. The attributes are no longer repeated. The third item is called the Great Lord's Proof, which is still a rather vulgar name. It can improve various special attributes in the territory, such as satisfaction, civilization, prosperity, etc. The Great Lord's Proof, epic level, ornament, a cursed strange badge that will bring bad luck and bad luck attribute enhancement 20%, strength 20, agility 20, physique 60, physique growth 2, magic resistance 10%, divine resistance 5%, increase the satisfaction, civilization, and prosperity of the territory by up to 10, increase the chance of being favored by the faction, and increase the chance of being protected by the gods, condition 30 level. The fourth item is called Doomsday Catastrophe. The main attribute is suitable for mages, can enhance the AoE and survivability of mages, and can also obtain attribute enhancement after completing the task. Doomsday Catastrophe, a powerful pendant forged by the demigod Erumil with blood through the elemental furnace, 100 physique, 150 wisdom, 120 spirit, 1 life recovery, 2 magic recovery, 20% casting speed enhancement, 5% chance to ignore damage, 5% chance to multicast, 15% reduction in negative effect duration, condition level 45, arcane profession, open the elite quest, Erumil's tomb. The fifth item is called Utopia. The attributes are unknown. Because of the low level and professional restrictions, it cannot be viewed. The name may be something extremely heaven-defying. Its appearance is plain, but from its inside, you can feel the surging power, which can affect people's mood. Really can't take all? He asked tentatively with a tiny possibility. Of course not. These are all treasures of the Gate of Elements, you can't take them randomly. It's useless to leave them there, he thought. But Wendy changed the subject. You can choose to. I advise you not to get in touch with the Utopia. You can't see the secrets with your level. Shen Xian reacted, that's right. Anyway, I can get it from you in the future. Wendy confirmed his guess, that's it? It will take a lot of time and resources to repair the elemental gate next. If you give me 1 million units of basic resources, I can give you another one. Exchange items with contribution points, but you need corresponding reputation. 10,000 reputation can be exchanged for epic level, and 100,000 reputation can be exchanged for legendary level. So if you want legendary level, you should consider it early, she reminded. After hesitating again and again, unlike the fat man who was begging for money, Shen Xian's current income can be said to be a long-term income. In short, he is with a big boss. The big boss cannot help the younger brother grow into a strong man in a short time, but there is no problem with guidance and assistance from time to time. The Doomsday Catastrophe is a great choice for Miss Xiao. The first 3 items can increase the attributes of the territory, and it is difficult to make a decision. In the end, it was decided to take away the Doomsday Catastrophe and the Proof of the Great Lord. The number of legendary items owned by players now does not exceed 10, and 100,000 reputation is too far away. The current resource production has not reached a bottleneck. It can be improved by building mines and logging sites on a large scale. There is no need to increase the items of territory attributes. Returning to the territory, Shen Xian first began to operate and build without any care, because the regional mission will soon end, and the troops of the players participating in the mission are temporarily empty, and he has a lot of opportunities to take advantage of. What is buying and selling arms and renting troops are all profitable businesses. Taking the opportunity to rob, destroy, and attack cities is also a good choice. The advantage of the knight allows him to own 4 territories and order the lords of the territories to contribute resources. Ilya quickly reported the current situation of the territory, and there was no big problem. According to the current size of the city, It can accommodate a population of about 800. Upgrading the village center is the first priority. Unlike the assembly center, there are many requirements for upgrading the village center. Satisfaction 50, Prosperity 10, Civilization 10, Miracle 10, this is the lowest indicator. But now Shen Xian has reached them, so he only needs to upgrade the assembly center directly. It takes 18 hours, 5,000 basic resources, 20,000 gold. Still need to accumulate some time. Lost City, Hodel Street. Miss Xiao knocked on the door and said, "Your letter." A wretched masked thief took it and said in a strange voice, "Please send it to number 23 Grey Alley in Waterdeep City." Bang. The door closed. No way. The third letter. Miss Xiao was more and more confused. Logically, the NPC would not play tricks on her in this way. Could it be that there was really a secret? Although she wanted to open the letter and take a look, her well-educated heart told her that this was an immoral act. Deepwater City, a large city 120 kilometers south of the Lost City, needs to pass through the eerie and terrifying Olsen underground intersection, where not only countless fallen orcs live, but also a checkpoint fortress of bronze dwarves. It is almost impossible to pass through there. If you want to take the ground passage, you need to cross the tall and majestic Rebak Mountains. The days without Shen Xian are really terrible. Miss Xiao suddenly misses him. It is said that there is a man behind every successful woman to help her. Is this true? She stood depressed with the fragrant envelope written in moonlight ink, and suddenly a strange footstep sounded behind her.